Welcome to Blackwood Grand Prix, round 6 of the 2006 to 2007 series. This is the world's most used racetrack, real or simulated, with over 1,000 events a day, and this is the king of them all, the Sim Touring Car Cup. My name's Becky Rose, and with me today is Tristan Cliff. Hello Tristan. Okay, now, we've had a few changes in the STCC. This is the first round in which we've banned driving aids. These are the virtual equivalent of electronic driver aids that you'd see in formulas like Formula 1. We've got rid of throttle blipping and throttle cutting and all sorts of lesser used gizmos like braking assistance, throttle assistance and semi-automatic gears, which in fairness most of the drivers, I think actually all the drivers, weren't using the more basic ones, but the big ones are the throttle blipping and the throttle cutting. Now the throttle cut, that's where when you change up a gear, what the drivers were doing is they were flat shifting, they were staying hard on the throttle, and what they now have to do is they now have to come off the throttle when they change up a gear. But the one that's really going to catch them out is the throttle blipping. So as they're changing down gears, decelerate. Carry on, Tristan.
Having said that, there is a certain amount of strategy involved, because you could still do a flat shift if you wanted to, but the risk of engine damage increases. So at strategic points of the race you might find people taking advantage of the flat shift just to gain a few metres on someone who's still lifting.
Absolutely, but that feature is only available to drivers who are using a manual clutch. But we'll talk about that after we've had a look around the track. Here we are, this is the Turn 1 Dragon's Bend. Now we've got a new feature here. We're showing you what it's like to drive around this track in all three different types of car featured in the STCC. Turn 2 at Woodside is a fairly open corner, fairly conventional corner in racing terms. But it comes after Turn 1, and that's probably the most challenging corner in sim racing. We'll talk a little more about that later as we look at Turns 3 and 4, Fairview.
You can see the oversteer of the FXO is much more pronounced than the other cars, as the rear tyres are used to slide more to get some temperature. The other cars are much more stable compared to the FXO, which generates an advantage on corner exits as it's pointing in the right direction sooner.
One of the features of Blackwood is it is a very, very, very fast track, and this is the main straight. The cars here will reach up to about 140 miles per hour down Nelson's Column as they descend into the last bend Highfields, which is a rather nasty chicane complex where they're having to shake off speed all the way through, and we're going to see some accidents here through the course of the day, guaranteed. It's a very difficult corner to get right.
And that leads straight into the Turn 7, the Dome as it's called, which is the final corner of Blackwood Reverse. And coming straight after the chicane, when you're coming off the even curbs, it's very hard to get the braking point and get the car to turn into there and take the apex of Turn 7.
Some of the track names a few people might recognise, because they're actually, the names here are taken from a very similar layout in a little town in Wales called Blackwood. Now that's actually located at the other end of the M4 where this virtual track is located, off junction 10 of the M25. Blackwood's, the virtual equivalent, is physically sited at Brooklands, the world's first racing track. Just one of the features that makes this a bit of a sim nostalgia, which gives this event such prestige in the sim racing community. Now on the grid today we've got Hannu Pinola in pole in RB4 with his teammate alongside him. Perist is a new driver standing in for Tommy Lorenz, who commentated with us last time, with Johnny Picard in 4th position in the FXO, the top FXO today. Fabian Paler pulls up in 5th position. He's a new driver, we'll talk more about him later. We've got Tommy Hyula in 6th, Biamaki in 7th, and Jack Green, perhaps returning to form, in 8th position. Another new driver, Thomas Liegman, he's in 9th position, with Enerson also the third new driver in the field today, he's in 10th. Bjorn Berens manages a slight improvement over last round, getting it up to 11th place. Dustin Dawes in 12th. Chris Redman all the way down in 13th position. What a surprise that is to see the championship leader struggling all the way near the back of the field. Had some problems in Heat 2, he just couldn't get through the field, and his qualifying position is low as a result. Sam Hopkinson 14th place, so not quite as good as he had last time, but Victor Sabo 15th, so two big names right at the back of the field here. And Stuart Baker in 16th position. He did very well last round at Aston, but not so here today so far. Mike Bauer starts in 17th. We have Rob Sherborne in 18th, and David Horvath again just scraping through the heat. We saw him do so well at the start of the season, but as the season's gone on, he's just been scraping through the barrel to actually qualify. He tends to do okay in the races, but from such a low position, just how much can you do in an XRT? So, on to the race. Perhaps if I take them away from the start, Tristan, I know you absolutely hate this. We've got all the lights on, and it's green. And it's Pinola leading from Raimish and Paris, all three of them pulling away massively from the cars behind. Looked to me like Paler got it a little bit bogged down, and Picard certainly got the measure on him. I think it's going to be Picard into fourth. No, we've got Virmaki up into fourth position. So the Muruks got three cars in the top four there, right from the off. So it's a good showing for them. And as we look through as the midfield come through, we've got Pinola over Raimish, Pirist in third, fourth is Virmaki, fifth, and we've got a move going on. Paler's losing out to, that's Virmaki, as he's dropped back behind Picard. As Picard's moved up to fourth, it's quite hard to tell them apart, all blue cars there in the middle, but Picard has got past Virmaki, and Paler had a look through there as well, but didn't pull it off. As we look now, has he done him? Yes, Paler.
Looking back already, it looks as though Chris Redmond seems to have been making up places steadily already by the looks of it.
Certainly as he gone through the field, and this is Picard moving up again ahead of Perez, so he's taken third position already. Picard up to third, and it looks like Paler is in fifth position. And no, Paler's lost out to Hyula as they come through Highfields for the first time. So all the leaders changing down the main straight with lots of slipstreaming going on and lots of swapping of positions. It's kind of hard to keep track of. As Pinola leads after the first lap, the two Murat cars consolidating their lead a little bit now as Picard tries to hunt them down. And then as we look back, who's in fourth position now? It's still Perist and Paler in fifth. Jack Green is in sixth position now, and he's right up behind Tommy Hyula. They're having a bit of a battle going on there as we watch the leaders as Picard tries to hunt down the two Murat cars in front of him. One of the things that's going to be interesting here, Tristan. Sorry.
I was going to say, I'm looking back. I'm interested to see how quickly Chris Redmond can improve his position, starting from 13th. According to the on-screen display there, he's still in 13th, so not as good a start as I first thought.
Well, you saw him passing people down the straight, Tristan, but don't forget the FXO tends to lose a few places on the initial start. So he's probably just repassing people he qualified ahead of.
That could well be it, yes.
And that's Redmond moving up, Picard moving up another position, so that's now into second position for Johnny Picard. He's up behind Harry Pinola, and we're going to have a battle for the lead here very soon. Now, one of the things I think is going to be interesting here today, Tristan, the RB4 drivers in testing were saying they're having a great deal of difficulty getting their tyres to last the race. There were some suggestions early on that there might be pit stops, but I think they've mostly got over that and are saying as long as they nurse it, they can do it. As Picard's making a move on Pinola, coming into the first bend, coming to Dragon's Bend, Picard is not close enough to pull it off, but he's going to tuck in behind him, so Picard is looking very promising. He's in new cars, of course. We're used to seeing him in a yellow car, the South City Cup Company. That's gone. He's now in the Mercury Racing team, and he is looking good for a win this race. He is the lead FXO at the moment, and he is all over the back of Pinola. I don't actually see Pinola lasting up for much longer against Johnny. And we've got a move going on there as well. Green trying to pass Hyula. So that could be a change of position coming there as well soon. And Fabian Paler, the new driver in fourth position, Magic Turtles team, he's now looking very strong against Chris Raimish in third.
Pinola's having to go extra defensive already down the back straight. The slipstream's going on. This could be a part of the lead.
Indeed, the RB4 just doesn't have the speed down the straight, and Picard managed to get into his slipstream very soon, and he's already neatly through as they come down the main straight.
Just driven straight past him.
Yeah, absolutely no resistance at all as they come into Highfields. And Picard's gone very wide there, actually. In fact, he's gone over the curve and he's put it sideways. Picard
he's knocked Pinola off as well. Big accident.
Also contacted there as well. And that's Redmond coming into the pits that contacted Picard, and it's knocked out all the pit markers. Redmond's entering the pits there. I don't know why he's coming in, but came across a stricken Picard who was trying to rejoin the circuit.
I don't know if he was intending to come in the first place. It might have just been he locked up, went wide, and the only place he could go after that, after the contact, was in the pits. So
we'll see shortly. That's Hayula going off wide. He was trying to pass Carissa. Who's in front now? That's one of the Murat cars. I think that's Chris Ramish has now got Fabian Paler all over the back of him. In the inset there we can see Chris Redmond in the pit, so he was stopping. We'll see if we can get some news on what that was about later on. And we've got two more cars coming into the pits there as well, Dustin Dawes and Sam Hopkinson, who has to reverse back into his pit box because he's overshot it. But we're looking at the battle for the lead. This is Chris Ramish from America and Fabien Paler from France. As they come down the main straight, Paler's already in the slipstream. He should get past as easily as Picard did earlier, and let's just hope he doesn't make the same mistake or we'll have another big change up at the front. So Ramish and Paler side by side in the main straight. We're waiting for them to come back into view, and it is Paler in front. You can just see the yellow flashes on the car there. So that's Paler and the Magic Turtles team. New driver this round. He won our qualifying events earlier in the month and managed to gain entry into the STCC. Green now in.
It's really mixed up the field now, and Redmond's obviously not going to probably score that many points today, and it's going to close up the championship tables already. I think it was Redmond was running away with it a little bit, and then there was 5 or 6 drivers separated by maybe 3 or 4 points.
Yes, Redmond had 88 points, and second was Pinola on 66. Obviously Pinola's way down the field now. We had Jack Green on 65, Horvath and Sabo both on 63, so there's a big gaggle of cars there. Green's still right up there, he's in 4th position at the moment. Horvath obviously isn't, he's kind of near the back today. Victor Sabo's in that big pack that's coming through now, so he's trying to fight his way through. So Jack Green's looking perhaps the strongest at the moment. He's in an FXO, he's near the front, and he's in good position to do well this race. As we look at Frederick Emerson in passing there, Thomas Leekman I think it was, as we come on to Nelson's column. Here's a replay of Picard's accident. He hooks it over the curb, sends the car spinning round, and Pinola really had nowhere to go, so in fact Picard contacted him again, pushing him even wider. As we look here from a different camera angle here, Pinola manages to recover.
It gets into a big fishtail, but it does just recover.
Yeah.
And this is Redmond trying to get into the pits and just contacting on Picard. Took out all the cones as well, which will keep the marshals busy.
And looking at the Paler as a massive lead already, doesn't he? So Paler, Ramish and Green are quite spread out. I think the next big move we're going to see is Green closing down Ramish. Paris doing very well in his first race, in 4th position in the RB4, ahead of Leekman in 5th.
Green passed Paris in that last lap. I don't think we saw it, but it was probably on the back straight. He was lining him up going onto the back straight, so I suspect he drove past him like the FXO's already shown it has a tendency to do.
Yeah, it does have a much higher top speed. The RB4 is not that quick in a straight line, and that is hurting them around here. They're actually our back marker class today, which we don't usually see on tarmac. The RB4 has usually got a little bit of an edge over the XRT, but with the low top speed of the RB4 on this fast track, it just can't quite keep up. So we're looking back from Leekman to Hayula. Lap 6. Paler leads, Ramish 2nd, Green 3rd, Paris 4th. Looking at that, Victor Sabo, 9th position. He's the top XRT at the moment, so he's leading the XRT class race. For the midfield class, they're not doing that well against the RB4s. And his nearest rival is Bauer, all the way down in 14th. And is that Green making a move to 2nd?
I think it
is.
He's
coming into Highfield. He's taken the place from Chris Ramish, who hooks it over the curbs. Does he keep control better than Picard? Yes, he does. So Green into 2nd position, and look at this big battle for 4th place behind. Loads of cars piling through.
Yeah, Green's really got the FXO hooked up now. He had a bit of a dip in form for the last few races, but it seems as though he's back on it again, and I think he's going to have a go at closing up the gap and going into the lead at some point, judging by this pace.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? Has he got an answer to Fabien Paler? So Fabien is he's quite well known in sim racing circles, races under the name Buster, which I'm sure many of the drivers in the sim community will hear that name and say, oh yeah, him, I've been beaten by him.
I always think he's you refer to him as Vlad the Impaler, which always amuses me.
Well, right now he's out front and he's got a stranglehold on this race, because although Green's got into 2nd position, he's actually at tarmac there, and that's...
There's been someone's come off.
Yeah, in the background there on the right-hand side, I can see flashes of red, so I'm guessing that's Enerson's car. Fredrik Enerson from Norway, and the Hartford Racing team, who driving this race. He was somewhere up in that sort of battle for pole position. Yeah, that is Enerson. And obviously things have gone a little bit awry in that scrap. So
I don't know if it was contact or if it was just a mistake and he spun to the inside. I don't know if we'll get a replay of it.
It was such a huge gaggle. It wouldn't surprise me if it was contact. As we're looking now, Green isn't really pulling out that much of a Ramish. I mean, it got a bit of a lead, but it seems to have settled down now. The gap 4.85 seconds this lap. It was 4.16 last lap. So Taylor is pulling away, and quite handsomely at that.
Indeed, yeah. I'm surprised by that. I thought Green would have had the pace, judging by how quickly he moved up the field, but obviously not quite got the speed at this stage of the race.
Yeah, 0.7 of a second is actually quite a big margin. That just shows just how quick Fabian Taylor is. He's on something of a mission today as well, because 3 weeks ago, sadly, his brother Mikhail died. In fact, you can see on the side of his car, he's got a black flash saying Mikhail. That's a dedication to his brother. And this is Dustin Dawes getting it all wrong at the last corner. Dustin Dawes has rolled it over, and that is still quite close to the racing line. We are going to have a safety car out for this. So Dustin Dawes has gone off down at Highfields, and this is the opportunity Jack Green needed. The safety car is definitely going to deploy. Sponsored by Logitech, just have to get that in, corporate responsibility. Logitech have come on board with the Sim Touring Car Cup. We're very grateful for our partnership with them, and they'll be providing a lot of the prizes we'll be giving to the drivers at the end of the season. As we wait for the...
I think it just demonstrates... Sorry, it just demonstrates the how difficult that chicane is. The braking point is very ill-defined. There aren't many markers around there, and you're going very fast, and you're trying to turn into the corner whilst losing speed at the first and the second apex. And the third curb, or the curb on the third apex, is so unforgiving, it's unbelievable. You hook your wheels over there and you're going to have an accident, it's almost guaranteed. The tyre walls are very solid, and I'm not surprised there's been accidents, to be quite honest with you, because it is a very, very difficult corner, even for quality drivers like in this field. And
it is hugely demanding. You're decelerating from 140 miles an hour at the end of the straight, and you've just got to shake almost all of that off by the third apex, and you're weaving one side to the other trying to do it. And you're absolutely right, it is a challenging corner, but
testing the braking abilities of your car.
Yeah, certainly. But one of the corners I want to talk about is Dragon Bend at turn 1. It is a fearsomely challenging corner, as we're looking at a replay of Dustin getting it all wrong. One of the things that makes Dragon's Bend so difficult is, as you're coming up Grange Hill, the start-finish straight, you reach the crest of the hill on a left-hand kink. Now that's actually where you're braking, on that crest, where it's apexing to the left. And then you've got to throw the car right, and for the right-hand bend, which is Dragon's Bend, and on the exit you use all the tarmac and more, because there's a bit of extra tarmac, as it were, off the circuit, and you use that as well, and you have to try and bring it back over with all the momentum working against you before you run out of tarmac and hit grass, and you have to sort of bring it back onto the racetrack, and it is a very technical, very demanding corner. This is actually, despite the high-speed nature of the circuit, this is a very demanding track to drive quickly and well. It's just one of the things that makes this such a prestigious race. The history of this place, as a sim racing circuit for the last, I don't know, was it 4 years now? It's been hugely popular all over the world as a sim racing venue, making it, as we said in the intro, the most used racetrack in the world, sim or real.
Well, I think Blackwood was first sort of opened in, was it late 2001 for public use, and saw a lot of use there as it was the first track in Need for Speed, and it was revamped in the end of 2004, I suppose, wasn't it?
It's all a bit before my time, to be honest with you, Tristan.
Well, it was revamped in, I think it was 2004. Curves were made a little more aggressive, parts of the track were resurfaced. You can see the difference in new tarmac and old tarmac as you drive around the lap. Some of the really harsh corners were slightly modified, but it remains a huge challenge. The chicane is much more forgiving than it was before. There were no runoff areas, there were very high curbs, and you had to use those curbs, but now it's much more open, but the inside of the curb is much more aggressive, so whilst it's generally much easier, you can still make a mistake, especially in this reverse configuration, as Becky alluded to earlier, braking from 140 miles an hour and trying to basically do 4 turns, as it were, whilst braking.
Yeah, I mean that is why we run this course in reverse. It is so challenging in the backwards configuration.
It's also less popular in the backwards configuration. Everybody's driven it, hundreds of thousands of laps probably forwards, but using it in reverse is surprisingly rare in comparison. So everybody's a little bit rusty at this track. They know each corner and they know what they should be doing, but getting it right every lap remains a challenge.
Absolutely, and the safety car is coming in this lap. It's speeding up, so Fabian Pehler is now the pace car until we reach the start-finish line. They're not allowed to overtake until they get to the start-finish line, so it's very difficult to overtake going to that first turn. Anyone who who achieves it has balls of steel, because you've got very little opportunity to pass between the finish line and the first turn. So I'd expect them pretty much to stay in the order they're in as they go through the first bend or two. And it's probably going to be the start-finish straight where they'll all start swapping positions again. They'll be very close to each other and slipstreaming. And
Green tried to go a bit early there, and he's actually lost out. He had to lift at the apex.
Yeah, and I just spotted Picard has pulled right up alongside Victor Sabo. Picard, there he is in the centre of your frame now. He has actually managed to pass Victor Sabo into the first corner. That is bold driving from Picard, who's on something of a mission now to make up for what he's probably going to see as a blown opportunity on the third lap there, where he went off with Pinola. Green going a little bit sideways there. I think his tyres must have been a little bit too cold.
Yeah, he just touched the grass on the exit there, and kicked the back end out, so he's struggling a little bit with cold tyres. We didn't warm them up enough on the last lap.
Yeah, it is something of a problem under safety car, in that you'll want to warm off, so you need to cool off a couple of your tyres, because invariably your drive wheels get very hot whilst you're racing, but the other 2 tyres then get too cold, and you end up with no grip at all, and the tyres are sagging and dragging, and the car just doesn't respond well for the first half a lap or so until you get the tyres warm.
Contact!
I think they just managed to avoid contacting each other there, but it was certainly a huge moment as they come into view. That was Tommy Hayula trying to pass one of the Murat cars. That's Ray Mish, who's dropped back behind Leekman. So Leekman is now into 3rd position, as Ray Mish and Hayula battle it out for 4th now, and Picard is up to 6th and trying to muscle in on the cars ahead of him. And that's demoted Perist down behind them. Then we've got is that Pinola and Sabo side by side? So huge changes of position over the last few laps. Yes, Pinola and Sabo, and then there's Baker and Virmaki concluding the basic lead pack, as it were, as we are 5 laps to go here at Blackwood Grand Prix Reverse. But this is going to be a huge... This, of course, has massively helped Chris Redman, who we can just see coming into view now, because he was basically the best part of a lap down, about half a lap down, I think, from his pit stop earlier. And Sam Hopkinson as well, who pitted. The other driver who made a pit stop was Dustin Dawes. And we've got news on that now. It turns out that all 3 of them forgot to put fuel in the car for the feature race. You don't expect that at drivers at this level, do you?
Picard's got quite good at it.
He did, well, he misjudged the amount to put in, which isn't quite the same as not putting it in at all, is it? As we watch Leekman and Green battling out for 2nd. Picard all over the back of Hayula. Yeah,
I was going to say someone clipped the inside curb there very heavily, but I just saw them come out the other side. They got it all crossed up, but came out in the right direction. So. And
Leekman is making a move on Green now for 2nd position. Thomas Leekman is going to take the place from Jack Green. So Jack Green, who his opportunity came on the safety car to get one on Pehler, it hasn't worked. It's gone the other way. Instead, somebody's got to move on him. And Leekman is a new driver to the series. He entered the qualification event for the STCC a month or so ago, and he actually missed out qualifying by half a point. He was the driver just below the cut-off, as it were. And bless him, he'd been trying to get in since the start of the season. For one reason or another, it had never quite pulled off. Then when an opportunity opened, we decided to basically let him in as the next best driver, as somebody who'd been there trying to get in from the very beginning. It'd been through the waiting list system, and that got scrapped, and so we made an exception and invited him into the series, and his paying dividend now is putting on a show for us and getting it up to second position in his first race. And that looked like Biamaki had a little bit of an off there as he joined Nelson's column. But he's back on the black stuff now.
Looking back down the field, you mentioned that Redmond's sort of benefited from the safety car, but I'm not entirely sure that's the case. Yeah, he's closed up, but he's stuck in a gaggle of cars. He's struggling to overtake here, as he did in the heats, and I don't think it's really benefited that much. He's stuck in a gaggle of 4 cars. It's given him the opportunity, as we watch Bauer and Horvath battling it out, it's given him the opportunity to pass people, but for that to happen, he actually has to be the one putting the moves on, and it's just not been happening this race. It didn't happen in the heats, and that's why he's ended up near the bag. And it's not like Chris, because he normally races so well, but I guess the little bit of anger or frustration's crept in, and it's just not been putting it off. But here he goes. This is the car he is passing. That's Bjorn Berens in the POD team, the RB4. He's muscled his way past and takes the position. It's the only way he's going to do it, by muscling his way past and not being polite.
Yeah, it's a very challenging track in some respects. If you make a mistake here and you spin off, because of the high-speed nature of the circuit and the fact that the whole field is basically spread out between 2, maybe 3 corners, if you end up spinning off, you're in last place and so far behind, you never see another car again for the rest of the race.
Redmond's advantage has always been under the brakes as well. If you watch the sort of passing manoeuvres that the really good ones that he's done have all been under the brakes, and that's not something that works to his advantage here. Something was going to happen there, but it's not something that works to his advantage here, because the major braking zone really is for the chicane, and you're trying to turn it in, clip 3 or 4 apexes in a row, and cars side by side don't really fit.
Yeah, and the other thing, of course, there's that, and of course don't forget we've just lost the throttle blipping whilst changing down gear, which stabilises the car under braking. So I wonder if that's affecting Chris Redmond's performance, and if that's the case, it won't just be Blackwood that's going to be a bogey track for him. It's going to be the rest of the season. Yeah,
indeed.
So we'll have to see next time to see how well he actually does do, or whether this is just a one-off bad day for Chris Redmond.
Perhaps we can arrange an interview with him and see what his opinions are of the ban of driver aids. From my experiences driving cars like these, and sort of catering style cars as well, if you forget to blip your own throttle and you don't cut your own throttle, it can add up to sort of half a second a lap, which is roughly probably what Chris Redmond's lost, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Just 2 little bits of information from that caption there that struck me as significant. Victor Sabo in the XRT has now worked his way up to 6th position, so he is moving up through the field, and he's going to get a half respectable points haul in here, which will have serious ramifications for the championship. But the other thing is, Enerson is now listed as a retirement. As we look at the battle here for 2nd position, Liegman is ahead of Green, then we've got Hayula, and then Picard. So, and Picard's actually having a move on Hayula here. He doesn't look close enough to me as they're going to Dragon's Bend.
I think he's just trying to make himself known in the rearview mirrors, but his comeback
is working.
To be hard.
He's making the move now as we come into Woodside.
Now he's around the outside. He's tried to cut back, but it didn't. Well, I was going to say it didn't work, but it has. Oh, and
big moment there for the pair of them, yeah.
But he ended up taking the pass.
That's using all the track for sure. With 2 laps to go here at Blackwood. So this battle is this sort of battle that's been raging behind the midfielders. It has just been a solid block of cars for the whole race, trying to sort themselves out. And this is what I'm saying. The whole field here seems to spread out over 2 or 3 corners, and you know, it's not like most races where there's cars throughout the whole lap. We're looking at Hayula trying to come back at Picard now down the main straight. as we approach Highfields. Let's see who's got the buckle as we go into Highfields corner, and it's Picard much later on the brakes, doesn't he? He's shot forward as Hyula eased off. You just see how dangerous those curves are with Picard going onto two wheels. Hyula actually gets a little bit wide. That's cost him time and possibly the opportunity to come back at Picard, as we're looking at cars trying to go three abreast here, as Redmond still trying to force his way through the field and recover some championship points from this race.
He's certainly trying, I'll give him that.
He has been moving through the field as well. I mean, just counting back there, he's got through about half a dozen cars since the safety car, so he is on the move. We watch a replay here of looking back from Picard's car as he throws it over the curb and Tommy Hyula goes wide.
Yeah, I think he braked a little bit later, but that meant he had to use a lot more of the curves, which, as we've seen before...
That's two places for Redmond right there.
Yeah, indeed.
Just forced his way through on the last lap. That's taken Pinola and Baker. He's ahead of them both there in that one move. That's a brilliant move by Chris Redmond. So
Chris Redmond in 8th, does it, overall?
I think it's 10th. Let's count them. There's Paler leading. We've got Liegman second, Green in third, Picard 4th, Hyula 5th, Savo 6th, 7th is Pinola, 8th is Pirist, and 9th is Chris Redmond.
Yeah.
Baker in 10th, and then 11th and 12th is two more Murat cars, Raimish and Biamaki.
Going through the final turn?
Actually, I think I've got Raimish and Pinola crossed there. But Fabian Paler crossing the line to take the victory. Hyula still very leery there. I think his tyres have gone, haven't they, in these last few corners. So Fabian Paler takes the victory for himself, for France, for the Magic Turtles team, and for his brother. And big accident there. Baker and Pinola. Pinola slammed into Baker under the brakes, and that's actually allowed Pinola's teammate Biamaki to pass him.
Yeah, Pinola lost out big time doing that.
Yeah, actually, I think Pinola was actually going to come out ahead of Baker there, but he actually eased off to let him through, doing the sporting thing, and of course that's allowed one of the POD cars, I think it was Bauer, to pass him as well. But at least he's done the sporting thing, and so the stewards will look at it more favourably, but as a result, losing about 3 positions there for Pinola, all on the last corner. So, Fabian Paler, victorious in his first race. Thomas Liegman, second position in his first race. So, do we have 2 new stars in the making here? It certainly was an impressive performance from Paler, wasn't it? He just drove away from the field.
Yes, but he wasn't looking that promising when Pinola and Picard were out front. So, it's difficult to say whether we've got 2 bright new stars or whether or not they would have been 3rd and 4th and sort of filed under also Rans rather.
Well, I wouldn't put them that far down. I mean, let's face it, when it was Paler versus Green, Paler was pulling out half a second a lap from the captions we had, which is impressive by anyone's standards. So, because I mean, Jack Green is not slow, and he's still a championship contender this year, and is in 3rd place at the moment. And he's actually closed the gap on Chris Redmond this race, who we can just see spinning as he comes into the pit lane. Now this is significant, because do you remember Aston Club round 3? We had a big accident on the slowdown lap, and the stewards introduced a ruling that the slowdown lap or the return to parc fermé should be considered as yellow flag conditions, although slightly relaxed in their enforcement, so you could still pass people and so on, but it should be considered as a yellow flag lap. And Chris Redmond having an accident there, that's certainly something the stewards will be looking at, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's driving recklessly into the pits, putting other cars in danger. You can see the skid marks going off to the left. You can just see the nose of his car.
Yeah, he's thrown it around in the pit lane once he pulled in. So certainly a very frustrated Chris Redmond there. And I'm wondering if we're going to hear the end of that. I think that's going to get him in trouble, because after Aston Club race, and in fact we've got a steward inquiry for car 18 for a Heat 1 offence. That's Fabian Paler, the race winner. Steward inquiry for Fabian Paler for an infringement committed in the heat, and car 11 there, incident under parc fermé conditions. That is Chris Redmond. So the stewards there, for them to announce that's obviously a major inquiry, because quite often at the end of every race there's inquiries, but usually quite minor and insignificant. But for the stewards to announce that to us here, then those are major investigations. They could have significant implications for the results. So I'll tell you what we'll do. In a week's time on lfsnews.net we will post the findings of the stewards, and of course we'll announce them in the next race as well. Thank you for watching the Sim Touring Car Cup. My name is Becky Rose. Ta-ra from me.
Ta-ra from me, Tristan Cliff.
Take care.